Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are excited to have you here in our webinar, General Product Safety Regulation. Are you really ready and compliant? First of all, just one organizational topic. If you have any questions during the session, please feel free to post them in the chat while we won't be answering questions live during the presentation. All questions will be collected and answered in the Q&A session at the end of our webinar. So just a brief introduction that you know whom you are talking to. We are from EFS Consulting. My name is Jörg Gallnertz. I'm a partner at EFS Consulting, responsible for regulatory compliance topics and related projects. With more than 20 years of consulting experience, it's a pleasure to introduce EFS Consulting and what we do. Who is EFS Consulting? EFS Consulting is the biggest independent consulting company in Austria, founded in 1992. Our headquarters is in the beautiful city of Vienna, and we have offices in Atlanta, Lisbon, Beijing, and Shanghai. We have work experience in more than 17 countries all over the world. Our base was in the automotive industry, but over the years, we have active projects in many industries like consumer goods, machinery, public sector, and many more. We have 380 employees from more than 30 nations in the EFS team, which especially helps us in the field of regulatory compliance. We have expertise in 8 fields of competence all over the value chain, from product strategy to lifecycle management, cost, supply chain management, digitalization, culture, sustainability, and of course, in the field that's in the focus today, security and legal data science. That's EFS in a nutshell. I'm happy to provide further information to answer any questions later on. I'm thrilled to be joined today by our expert speaker and very valued team member, Alan Schweikowski, who is one of our legal and regulatory experts with multiple years of experience in the field of product compliance. Welcome, Alan, and the stage is yours.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Jörg. Yes, this is I. My name is Alan Schweikowski. I have the pleasure to work for EFS as the regulatory compliance expert and a certified product compliance officer and material compliance officer. And I will have the pleasure to conduct this webinar for you today about the general product safety regulation. And the main question is if you are really ready and compliant. You may be surprised that we are raising this topic because it is not a new law. It entered into force already some months ago. However, there are some traps in this regulation which many companies, many of our clients oversee. And we wanted to draw your attention to those little details that are sometimes omitted and which may cause some compliance trouble. That's why we decided to bring this topic closer to you today. Before I start talking about the general product safety regulation, a short overview of our expert fields. So we are now anchored, let's say, in the product compliance cluster, where we deal with product safety, product requirements worldwide. However, we are we have broader interests and broader scopes, and we cover also automotive compliance, material compliance, environmental compliance, international trade compliance, and corporate compliance. But the focus today is on product compliance and, to be more specific, on the general product compliance in the EU. The goal of today's webinar is not to talk about all requirements contained in the general product safety regulation. This will be too much for this short webinar, but we wanted to focus on several aspects which, in our opinion, tend to be forgotten by companies, to draw your attention to them and to help you avoid some traps. After a short presentation of the GSP, or in the nutshell, and its general requirements, I will make 4 deeper dives into 4 specific aspects of this regulation. And then we will have a short Q&A session to answer your questions that may arise during the webinar. What is the General Product Safety Regulation? It's the new general EU regulation on product safety. It replaces the old, the previous Product Safety Directive. So you can see that's the difference. Now the topic is regulated at the EU level, not directly and not nationally by member states. It applies fully from December 2024. So as I said, it has already been in force for several months, and it affects all consumer products on the EU market. It applies to non-food consumer products, and especially to goods that are not covered by any specific EU harmonization legislation. And the main goal here is to provide a safety net to catch all possible products that may appear on the EU market and to address the risks linked with them and to protect consumers. The main objectives of the GPSR are, as I said, to provide kind of a safety net function to cover, on one hand, all products and all kinds of safety risks that are connected with them. Then, of course, you know very well yourself, the online trade is gaining importance. So this regulation also tackles the topic of online sales and what, on one hand, online marketplaces what requirements online marketplaces have to meet. On the other hand, what traders selling online have to comply with. These are new requirements. And also, the goal was to improve even more the effectiveness of product recalls, the cooperation of market surveillance authorities, etc. These are the main objectives of the General Product Safety Regulation. Now about the key requirements. As I said, there are quite a lot if you read the regulation carefully. We will not cover all of them in this webinar, but we will be happy if you reach out to us if you have further questions. The goal today is to talk about let's say this function of covering all products on the EU market, and how this General Product Safety Regulation, how it overlaps with EU specific legislation like Low Voltage Directive, Toys Directive, etc. Then we will focus on the technical documentation requirements for risk assessments, and also a very tricky topic of instructions and warnings. This is something new, and from our experience, we know that many manufacturers tend to forget about this requirement, as well as they tend to forget about the traceability requirement and the proper labeling of the product. And then the last but not least, we will show you some new requirements for online sales, because you probably sell your products also online, and indeed there are new requirements which we would like to draw your attention to. So let's start with the scope and the overlap with other EU legislation. You know yourself very well that there are several EU directives or regulations covering specific product categories, like lifts, like construction products, like medical devices, like batteries. On one hand. On the other hand, we have this General Product Safety Regulation. And many clients are asking us, what is the connection? For example, if you are covered by one of the directives on the left, do you have to read the General Product Safety Regulation at all? If normally the specific law is more important than the generic law, so you might think, actually, if I'm covered by any of the regulations on the left, I can forget about the general product safety regulation, but this is actually a mistake because the GPSR applies to all products on the EU market. Especially, so on one hand, for the aspects for which no specific provisions are provided in other EU legislation. So this means that there are aspects, if there are some specific aspects of products covered by the specific harmonization legislation, then this specific legislation applies to those products. However, the GPSR addresses some other aspects, some more generic aspects, generic risks, which are not covered by the specific EU harmonization legislation. That's why you still have to read it, because it will also apply to your products. And you will see on the next slide how some specific chapters of GPSR apply to all your products, even if they have some more specific requirements. So, for instance, the chapter 2, dealing with the safety requirements, it applies indeed to all products, also to harmonized products, but for risks which are not covered by the EU harmonized legislation. And there is, in this chapter 2, there is a new list, a non-exhaustive list of risk aspects, which you may have to have a look at when you place your products on the market. These are things like new technology products, the feature of being child appealing, of being food imitating, for instance. So there are some risks not addressed in the harmonized legislation. Then you have to think about them based on this GPSR. Also, more, let's say, technical or administrative obligations like accident reporting or online sales. There are also things applicable, provisions applicable to all products in the GPSR. Then obligations of online marketplaces. If you are an online marketplace, probably this is not that common. Also, the safety gate rapid alert system or right to information and remedy. So some things are provided in the general product safety regulation, and they apply to all products. So the short answer is no, you are not allowed to forget about the GPSR, even if you have some product-specific legislation in place. Now, about the risk analysis and the technical documentation. Here we wanted to draw your attention indeed to those new risk aspects that you have to have a look at when you place your products on the market. And these are new risks which haven't been covered previously by either by the General Product Safety Directive or by the EU harmonization legislation. For example, appearance, whatever you may produce, you always have to take into consideration that your product mustn't be appealing to children. Otherwise, it may be classified as a toy directive. It applies to chemicals, to shampoos, etc. So they cannot be colorful or depict some animals, toys, because this may cause additional risk. Also, you have to take into consideration effects on other products. This especially applies to electrical devices, wireless devices, how your product may interact with other products, for instance. So there is a catalog of additional risks that we draw your attention to in the General Product Safety Regulation. And then this is very important because actually the way you conduct your risk analysis and the way you set up your technical documentation, this is one of the proofs for authorities that you are compliant or not. Because if you have an audit, for example, by some member state authorities, if they find your product and want to check if it is if you are compliant, of course, if you are not affected by the EU harmonized legislation, then you will not have the CE marking or the declaration of conformity. But the authorities will ask you to show them your technical documentation and your risk assessment. There is a very generic model template provided by the EU Commission. Just to give you an idea of how it may look like, you have to, of course, indicate that the basic features, basic data about the product, also about its composition, materials, etc., and to address the risk. So this really applies to all products that you put on the market. You have to think of those potential risks and address them in the technical documentation and show which measures you have taken to address the risks. So there is no concrete legal requirement about how you should do it, but you should have it. And then if authorities come to you, you are on the safer side if you have such a document, and the better it is, the more comprehensive it is, the better for you. Now, another tricky topic, labeling, consumer warnings, and instructions. Here, there is a live case of quite a big company which didn't read the regulation carefully, and they omitted one important detail. And then it turned out that lots of their products are actually not compliant on the EU market because one thing was missing. I'm talking about the electronic address of the manufacturer, of the importer. This is the requirement from the Article 9.6 of the GPSR, where manufacturers shall indicate their name, etc., 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 all the data, but also an electronic address, so that consumers, also authorities, can comfortably reach out to them. And yeah, basically, if you don't have this on your product, or if it is not possible on the packaging, then you are not compliant. It does not mean that you will be very severely punished right away, but still, this is a case of non-compliance, which may be addressed by authorities. And there were some doubts about what is actually meant by electronic address. Can it be, for instance, a website? So basically, this term refers to forms of direct electronic communication. So it should be indeed an email address or a contact form or on a website, but it's not a static website or a phone number. So here, yeah, we really recommend you to have a look at your products and check if you have addressed this requirement. Otherwise, you are not compliant. Another one, the traceability of products and marking with the type, batch, or serial number, enabling the identification of the product. So many products have it, some may not have it, but the reason for this marking is very important. It's about the recalls that may take place. And you as a manufacturer, in case there is some there are some safety issues with your product or with a batch of your products, you really should be able to know where those products ended up, to identify them, and you should have a system in place to be able to track them. So again, if an authority comes to you, they for a reason or just for the heck of it, they would probably like to see if you have this traceability feature on your product, so that you can track every single of your products, which batch it was, when it was produced, where was it sent, to whom, and in case there is some situation, that you are able to recall them, or at least take some measures to contact your distributors, etc. So it's really not about only having just some number, but about being able to track down your product along the supply chain. All those labels that appear on the product, in the times of the digitalization, you might think maybe placing just a QR code on the product to give all the data to consumers would be enough, but this is actually not enough. Digital labeling alone is not sufficient. you need to state that you need to place all the necessary information on the product. And if it is not possible, then on its packaging or in a document. But not being possible does not mean aesthetic reasons. This does not count as not being possible. It must really be technically impossible. For example, if the product is too small. You can, of course, still provide the information electronically, but in addition to the physical labeling. Another tricky point is the instruction in a language that can be easily understood by consumers as determined by the member state in which the product is made available on the market. So also here, actually it means that you should in most cases provide the instruction in the national language of the member state where your article is placed or made available on the market. Here, however, you should check the national legislation because as the EU regulation says, in the language as it is determined by the member state. So you should check in which languages are required by law in your target markets. And it may be, of course, in Italy it's Italian, but maybe there are some countries which allow labeling in English. Maybe some require 2 languages. So here, just reading the GPSR is not enough. You really have to check the national legislation. Yeah, so for instance, if you're selling only in Poland, then Polish instructions are sufficient. If you're selling in 3 countries, then you should provide, for example, Poland, Germany, and France. After checking the national requirements, most probably instructions should be in all 3 languages. How, if it is 1 document or 3 separate, it does not really matter. The last thing about the instructions is the topic of digital instructions, if it is possible or not. So basically, in the GPSR, you will not find an explicit statement about which form of instructions is required, but there is a suggestion that the default format is rather paper. You can read in the preamble of the regulation that instructions could be, in addition, provided in a digital form or by means of electronic solutions. So here, there is a hint that electronic provision of instructions is an additional solution. However, also here, as the regulation states, how the product is accompanied by instructions should be determined by member states. So also here, you should check the national regulations, the German product safety law, the French product safety law, to see how they require the instruction to be provided. Maybe in some countries, the digital format is allowed. I know that in Germany, for instance, it is still not allowed, but there were many distractions and many legal proceedings to answer these questions. There are some rulings of German courts about if it is possible or not. So this is not that easy always. It's not always black and white, and there are still probably on many markets controversies about the form of the instructions. Of course, if you are covered by some specific regulations, like the machinery regulation or the medical devices regulation, then maybe there are some explicit provisions about digital instructions. And this is something that you need to check for your specific product category if covered by the EU harmonization legislation. The last point for today is the requirements for online sellers. Basically, the GPSR addresses online sales for online marketplaces and for distance sales in general. Online marketplaces are basically websites that act as a marketplace that sell articles from many traders, from many companies like big companies, probably this does not apply to you. But if you are yourself selling your products online, then there is another trap in the GPSR. There is a requirement in Article 19, letter D, that any warning or safety information which should be affixed to the product, either or to the packaging or included in an accompanying document, it should be also published online. So if you are selling a product online and you decide to put one warning sentence of this product to warn the consumer about some specific risk connected with this product, basically this article means that the same warning should be also placed online at the website where you sell the product. So this is quite tricky, easy to omit, but that's what the EU requirement is now, to repeat the same warnings, the same safety informations, which you decide to put on the product and its instructions also online. Okay, so as I said, today the goal was not to talk about all the aspects of the General Product Safety Regulation. We decided to cover the most tricky ones, the ones that we know from experience have already caused troubles to some companies, and to put some more light on them. Now we are open to answer any questions you may have in relation to the General Product Safety Regulation. If we don't have the answer right away, which may happen, then we will contact you directly per email. Otherwise, if no questions arise at the moment, still please feel free to contact us per email, maybe to make some deeper dives on the issues you may have with the General Product Safety Regulation or any other product compliance regulation or material compliance regulation. In the meantime, please follow us on LinkedIn, available here on the QR code, where we publish weekly new insights from the product compliance world, information about further webinars. So please follow us. Thank you very much for your attention. It has been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for showing up so numerously. Have a nice afternoon or day, depending on your time zone. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.